Welcome in our podcast series of Tech Play, Driving Change in Maritime. Today I will have a conversation with Wesley Lems, CEO of Jordex Group, and we will talk about agencies and the role of AI and digitization and how this is a people's business. Looking forward to this conversation. Wesley, welcome in the podcast series. Really looking forward to this conversation. We know already one another quite a long time. Currently COO of the Jordex Group. We go back even to the agency's time. Maybe it's good to introduce yourself to the audience, who you are and what you have been doing.
Yeah, thanks, Leon. I think first of all, thanks for the invite and being on this table. We know each other indeed already for a long time. I think we started a lot of digital adventures already with each other. I think I'm a real maritime addict. Started in Maritime in 2004. Wanted to work in the port actually, and started as boarding clerk. Want to have my feet on the ground. Would like to know the ships. I would like to know the business. And from that moment on, actually was hooked to the industry. Did several things, operations, but also digitalization for a long period of time. I think that the maritime industry is not yet ready for all digitalization, but maybe we can talk about that later. And then started actually in freight forwarding. Became a COO of the Jordex Group as per October 22. And from that moment on came a different world. Still maritime, but also far more cargo related than actually being busy with the hardware. Mm-hmm. And actually as from this year back in agency business as well, as it's a good fit towards Jordex and the group activities, and hopefully can further extend the things that we are doing in that area.
Cool. And one of the questions I always like to ask is like, if you look at maritime business, I'm in it now for 12, 13 years, and there are a lot of things which are different than you expected up front. But if you look on the maritime business and how people perceive the business and how the business actually is, what is the thing that people do not understand or should know about the maritime business? What is that it makes it that makes it so special?
For me, especially that you see a ship, you see, but you don't know what's behind it, the processes that are behind the ship, what's actually going on board the vessel. That's one of the important, or let's say, interesting things that I see, and what also is fascinating me. Mm-hmm. on that part. So you have crew on board of a vessel. You need to take care of them. There's cargo on board. If you want to proceed inwards in the port, you need pilots, you need boatmen. And I think most of the people outside the maritime industry don't see all these processes and what you need to get a vessel in port, and also to make a vessel depart again.
Yeah, I think that was also part that attracted me really to the maritime industry. It's this collaborative nature of all different stakeholders working together. Yeah, it's often mentioned like it's up to 28 in the port call. So yeah, and as an agent, you do have a very important role in that one. Maybe it's also good to elaborate a bit on an agent. What is an agent, and what is the role of the agent in this maritime ecosystem, and why is it important?
I think that in general, I would call the agent the personal assistant of a vessel calling a port. I think that's the most simple explanation. But there's more behind it. Basically, the agent arranges everything on behalf of the owner or charterer of the ship. You should imagine that the owner or charterer is not always present in the port where the vessel is calling. So the agent takes basically everything towards him. Arranges formalities with authorities, arranges husbandry matters on board of the ship, and also when shit hits the fan, make sure that things are arranged and that the vessel can sail or can proceed inwards as soon as possible without any delays and without any
to make sure that everything is going smooth and the vessel.
Yeah, so I think that for us as an agent, the most important thing is that the vessel can sail a port as soon as possible, can proceed inward as soon as possible, but all in relation, let's say, with the plan and the strategy that our customer has.
Yeah. And if you know digitization, I think that's an interesting topic to discuss, but I think it's also good to look back, like you started already a while ago in the business. What has changed, and what is the role of digitization in that process? How are things changing from an agent perspective?
No, if I would, let's say, look at, let's say, what happened during the years from the moment that I started as a boarding clerk, and now is that in the beginning, you boarded the ship and you were basically also in conversation with all authorities. They were also on the table. You were arranging things with the immigration service, with the customs, with the terminal. And nowadays, that's all digitalized. It's all, let's say, arranged by the port community platforms, which works, of course, fine. But that changed the role of the agent as well. So it's more, let's say, being arranging everything from the office instead of boarding the ship, although it's still an important part of our job. Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest change is that the administration and the way you are working with the authorities, with your customers, is more, let's say, on the screen than physically.
Okay. And has it become more efficient in your perspective? Are vessels being quicker in port or going through the port? Is the port stay reduced due to these digitization efforts?
I think that in general communication improved. Mm-hmm. So you don't have any delays on that. I think that checks are done far more quicker than in the past. So yes, in that sense, it's more optimized. On the other hand, still arranging and coordinating all the services for the ship. That's still a job that needs to be done by the agent, and in my opinion, cannot yet be digitalized.
Mm-hmm. I think it might be an interesting jump to move on to the AI topic. Is it from agents to agents?
Yeah.
AI is changing things rapidly, I believe. Yet it's also like it's being hyped. I'm curious with the journey that you have been on, and you think about what AI can bring, and what is your expectation that will happen, and where do you see the biggest impact?
I think AI is still the buzzword. So if it's AI, basically everybody thinks that it will solve everything. In my opinion, when I look at the, let's say, duties of an agent, it can help us by making the correct planning. It can help us by, let's say, having different scenarios in what to do with complex operations. So if we have multiple berths, for example, what's the most optimal rotation according, let's say, the model? I think that would be, let's say, of use for us, but also will benefit our customers in having a optimal port call.
So then you move towards the area of optimization based on models and making smarter decisions on the more mathematical side of the area. And if I look at an agent is also really a communications job. It's making a lot of phone calls, coordinating, orchestrating. It can be coming from systems. Is there a role in AI in that area?
I think for sure that it will help us again in, let's say, getting the perfect port call, so to say, for our customers based on their plans. Because I think that if we look at, let's say, the perfect port call, you could say, okay, I want to have the shortest period of time for my port call. But in the end, that might not be the most efficient way. If you look at cargo loading, if you look at the plans or the commercial plans of our customers. And for me, AI would facilitate, let's say, the perfect port call to become towards the perfect port call instead of, let's say, take over the complete process that we as an agent handle. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, but that is the perspective of the cargo owner, vessel owner that you take. But if you look at the port call, it's also like many stakeholders. The terminal has a different plan, and that might not necessarily be aligned with the plan of the cargo owner or the tugs in that part.
Yeah.
Is there? How do you look at that part? Do you see a role for AI in that orchestration or coordination as well, or?
For me, now, being at this table, I think it's still a bit too early to say what AI can do for that. I think that you are right that the complexity of all the, let's say, demands that we have, or let's say the interest of the different parties involved, that's still a big challenge. I don't know whether AI can solve that for now, because that would basically mean that all parties would also rely on the model and on the decisions that AI can make. And I think that's still a bit far for that. But based on, let's say, also historical data, based on actual situations that are in port, I think that we can have a more optimal port call, and we can already make use of AI by just predicting what will happen. I think for me, that would be the most important part on AI for now.
For me personally, that holds the same. It is like you can help the decision makers to make better decisions, better informed decisions. I think it will still eventually. There is so much complexity, which I feel is very hard to really. It takes experience. That happened once, and you need to have analogous reasoning. And in shipping, I still see like there is a lack of data in that sense to really come up with the right things. It will eventually. It might come there, but I really see the AI helping in the decision making and the orchestration over there.
Yeah, I do agree on that. Yeah.
If you think about digitization is one part, that's the technology part. But again, it's not only about the technology, it's also about the people. People really need to start using that. I know you have been responsible for implementing quite some systems in the agency world. What is your take on that? How easy is it to change it within an organization, and even lifting it one level and say, like, if you look in a broader perspective, looking at working together with the other stakeholders?
I think that the first thing that you mentioned is the internal organization. I think you manage that yourself, so you're in control of, let's say, the change. So I think that's the easiest part of, let's say, the change that we have or that we can do in this industry. I think it's all about the belief that you can change, the belief that you want to have the digitalization within your processes. I think that's easy to do, so to say. I think the second part is far more complex. And I think that's also more like that a lot of initiatives that we have are really big. Like, okay, well, we want to change the whole port. And for me, it's more like focus on smaller processes and take it from there. And I think that's lacking at the moment. So we are focusing, or we are heading to the moon, but let's just take it step by step. Because in my opinion, that's the real, let's say, that's the way forward. Because then you have smaller changes, you can prove that it works. And there are too many stakeholders involved, for me at least, at the moment, to change this complete process.
Yeah, no, I'm fully with you on that one. I really believe in the self-organizational dimension if you talk about ecosystem change. I agree. I think in an organization it might be easy, yet I've seen also many examples where operators, and there are only a few operators, and they do have a very strong role, and you can want to change it as management, but still that's also quite a challenge. But especially in this ecosystem change, that is a standardization. Is that taking place? Is that driving change from your perspective?
I think I have a quite strong opinion on standardization. I think that basically we want to have global standards, but in my opinion, we also should prove that standards on a local level are working and take it from there. So in my opinion, we should start from an operational perspective instead of having a standard perspective and set a standard globally, and then start having projects on that. So first start with a process, make sure that you can standardize it from a local perspective and take it from there. Because for me, the standardization is actually delaying the optimizations that we can make in processes on the short term.
Yeah. I think this is also an angle where AI will step in. You can start defining all kinds of standards, but with the AI and the ability and the power that AI has to really understand what is happening, it might actually be able to detect already the information that is required. Yet there is still some standardization required on that one. How does that play for? And I think this is also interesting in the global local dimension.
Yep.
If you are a trader, if you are a big commodity trader, say for instance, you need to get things done globally. And if you want to have systems or efficiency, you want to have that in one system. What is your take on that one? Maybe in the Jordex Group, you have to deal with that. You also have the global scope, or more of the global scope.
I find it a hard question. For sure, there need to be a standardization, right? That should be there. But again, for me, it's more like start smaller, prove that it works locally, and also see what works locally and take the best practices out of the industry. For sure, a commodity trader or a shipping company that's calling ports globally, they should have some standards. But again, we are focusing on the local part. So we are focusing on cargoes as Jordex locally for our customers. Of course, we take it everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. But again, let's start locally and take the best practices out of it. And that would be the most important part for me, instead of having this more high over standardization.
Your value proposition is in locality, not in globalness in that sense.
No. Yeah. And we believe that especially local knowledge, local feet on the ground will bring the benefit also towards our customers, for example. Yeah.
You also have been looking at a lot of technologies. We touched upon AI. Do you have any expectations on this is something to watch, or this will be a pathway or a trend that will be a next step in the industry?
I think that still AI, I think that basically we have AI now. I think there are still already some technologies that are there that we can still use in the industry even. I think the bigger companies are already busy with that. Also simple things like RPA, for example. I think still we can benefit from that because there are not all integrations available yet at the moment. I think there's still a lot of legacy in the industry where we can still benefit from already proven technologies. If we look ahead, then for sure AI is the next best thing. I would not say, for example, blockchain or whatsoever. I think that the full focus should be on AI and in decision making, in analytics, and let's say give new value towards the processes, or show new value towards the processes, things that are hopefully undiscovered yet. Yeah.
Maybe another interesting topic to touch upon, like maybe change legislation. We were talking about a local port authority. Authorities, they do have local legislation. European Commission is also bringing in quite some new legislation in that sense. What is the impact of these type of legislations within the business that you're currently running?
No, I think that these type of legislations will be adopted locally by the port community systems that we already use, for example. So for me, the European legislations are more, let's say, in the background, having or driving new standards on a customs level, for example, on a port call level. But I think we will handle that again locally by the systems that we have in place. It might drive also the data sharing between parties, but still it's too complex in my opinion. So we have these European legislations, but they are far too complex to really get the direct benefit once it has been implemented. And what we see, or what I see in the industry in general, is that as soon as there is new legislation, we cannot directly take the benefits from it. And that should change.
Yeah. I think the other really interesting topic is, like, we've been touching about technology and standards, but optimization and having that ingrained in your organization to do things smarter, more efficient on that part. How do you look at in your current role? Is that something that is on your agenda? How are you dealing with optimizing these type of businesses, and what are the inputs? What are you looking for in that sense?
I think in the end it's important to listen to your customers, of course, what they want, because if we say that we can optimize a part of the process that's not of interest of our customers, then what's the use? So I think it's all driven by our customers' needs. If we look at optimization, for example, of course, if we can have a more optimal rotation, if we can have a more optimal pricing for our customers, for sure we will do that. To, let's say, mention one specific point where we can optimize, I think there are many smaller processes that we can optimize, which in the end create the real bigger value towards our own processes, but also our customers. Yeah.
And the optimization of your own processes, do you set in place a structure with KPIs? How do you set your targets in that sense, on where to focus or where to find where there is still room for improvement?
Yeah, it's more like also the KPIs are internally driven on your own processes, of course. So where, for example, financially driven. So how can we shorten our invoice processes, for example, things like that. So that's all measured. Port calls are measured. Again, they are also communicated with our customers, and that's the starting point. Yeah. So from that moment on, if it's important for our customers, we can discuss it with terminals. We can discuss it with service providers to make that more efficient. But again, all driven by our customers on how we do that.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. If you think about the role of an agent, we had a very transactional level, the cargo, the vessel, import, output. Now we move into the level of, okay, how can we create a better business overall, and how do you look at that? Is that something that agents are picking up, should be picking up? Do they have an active role in that?
Yes, they would have an active role. Again, towards our customers, I think that we are representing our customers in the port, of course, where we are active. So yes, for sure, we are the feet on the ground for our customers. So we know, we have the local knowledge, we know what's going on in the port. So for sure, it's our role to identify the optimizations and together with our customer optimize them. Yeah.
And is that a regular, would you see that consider as a regular part of how you interact with your customer, that you say like, oh, let's not look at the incident or the things, but let's sit down and discuss that performance-wise?
Yeah, for us, when we look at the agency activities that we have, for us it's important that we also have these conversations with our customers and create the perfect port call for them. So yes, it is.
Yeah. And I think one of the hard parts in the port call, we were mentioning like there are so many actors involved. There are so many disturbances and influences in that part. In order to have the right conversation, you need to have some kind of, you need to have the data. Otherwise you will just have a discussion on a once-off or an incident on that part. That is where we as TechPlay have been focusing on as well, in providing this visibility on what is the port call performance, so to say, as far as we can get the knowledge. I still feel like it's really a tough problem that you need to solve, because there is also this operational mode going on. It's this vessel needs to depart now. That is a lot of the focus that is going on, and having that conversation between the stakeholders, because the issue will not be on one person. It will most likely be in the interaction between persons. Have you seen changes in that in these type of discussions over the years? Are these topics being more discussed? Is there, maybe also the role of the port authority in these kind of things?
I think that the discussion is there. I think that also what you just stated is that it's a very complex process with a lot of stakeholders, with a lot of influences that we have from the outside, even weather circumstances that we cannot influence, right? So I think that it's not yet done in the most optimal way, but I also think that it's a very complex process and also initiative to proceed with. So for me, again, let's focus on the real small processes, on the one-on-ones with a service provider, with a terminal, with your customer, to solve things, prove that it works, and take it from there. Because I think the whole port call process is too complex to solve in one time as a whole. And I think that everybody has the ambition to change the complete port call. When you look from the outside, it seems like a quite easy process. Vessel comes in, berths, performs her operation, leaves. But it's a far more complex process, influenced by a lot of factors, even by things that are not related to your port call. Different port calls of other vessels, for example. So for me, again, let's focus on the smaller things and not on the complete port call, because for me that will not work. So small steps, and in the end achieve the maximum.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe one last topic. There is a lot of dynamics going on in the world. Geopolitical situation going everywhere. In your day-to-day business, what do you see? Does it impact on the port calls, or are the vessels continue to move and that process remains more or less the same?
I think that what we see is that in general the vessels keep calling ports, right? And there's also still a demand for the industry that is located in the port. What we do see is that you see cargo flows changing, and I think that's the most or the biggest change that we see. And of course, that's all driven by the geopolitical situation that we have. But there's a change, and I think also that the industry is quite fast adapting towards new flows, and also based on the situation which is there.
I think the maritime industry kind of has been. This is the bread and butter of the maritime industry. It's change.
It is change.
Cargo flows are changing continuously. World trade, supply and demand. So the dynamics are in there. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the conversation, Wesley.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. Hope the audience did as well. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leon.